It's a fun conversation about fundamental there.
Fundamental. Yes. I mean, the fundamentals are so difficult to get across sometimes because there's a lot of shiny stuff that is very distracting.
It's very easy to teach them wrong. It's very easy to assume that other people have base knowledge that they don't. It's very easy to assume you understand the fundamentals as well as you think you do.
One of the great it's difficult as well to keep people engaged when you're talking about fundamentals. If we start talking about actually what's going on with a texture that's a normal versus a texture that's a bump map, conceptually you could go through it very, very simply at a high level. But when you start talking about how it's doing normal calculations, say you wanted to take your knowledge further, then it's difficult to pace a particular video to include that. I can see you smirking.
Well, it's like one of the big obstacles to learning Blender for the very first time is the control system. It takes a while to understand how to move around, how to find things. I still mess up by confusing Control A and Shift A. Like in my brain, they should be reversed. And so one of the obvious things to do is the first section of your course is just the interface, but no one's going to get to the second section.
Yeah, people literally say, "Oh, this is boring." Well, it is. It's the fundamentals. Right. Yeah, they are right. They're not wrong.
It's a fundamental, but I guess the question there is which fundamental should you be teaching?
Yeah, we try and approach the beginning of a course to get people. It's difficult because different people learn in different ways, which is always a challenge. But we try and make sure there's some sort of project attached to it. So in Blender, if you're moving stuff around, sure, let's learn to move stuff around and make something at the same time. I think approaching it that way is much more user accessible than just learning to move things around. There are certainly multiple ways of learning and multiple curriculum approaches that you can have, and there is the old school way of doing a lot of
ZBrush.
There is the old school way of doing a lot of academic stuff. So you have all the instruction first, and then you put it into practice. It's better to combine the two.
I've seen people argue that you should start with the mathematics and the theory. The problem there is if you don't have a practical grounding, that won't stick.
Yeah. I've had the same sort of argument.
Understanding the mathematics in abstract, if you're not already well trained in mathematics, doesn't help you understand it.
No, and ultimately,
I mean, I explained UV texturing to somebody recently by pulling up a cube.
Yep.
Putting a UV texture on it, and then putting the wrong texture on it for a different object, and seeing how it's mapped. Yeah. And it's much easier to explain by having a practical example. Hi, caboodle.
Yeah, I mean it's always a challenge, and we also welcome feedback. So if you're going through any of our courses and perhaps it's going too fast for you, reach out. There may be something that we can help out, or just we've mentioned something in a lecture. I had a bit of feedback about an origin, but I hadn't explained origins because the course was set as an intermediate course. Yeah. So I've assumed that you know what moving things is, what rotating things, scaling things. They're all forms of transforms.
Is such a difficult term when you're teaching.
Yes,
I mean, because it means so many different things.
I've had
to explain what's going on with this cat. This cat's been asleep all afternoon. She's usually on my desk or on my lap. And she clearly has just woken up without me in the room and is worried that I wasn't in the house. And now she's very excited.
Well, you are in the house. Let's play. Yes. Focus on the fundamentals of what you're doing, such as 3D wise. Yeah, exactly. When it comes to things like interface and building up a game, starting at the fundamentals is incredibly important, and making sure that you have your control system sorted. Not finalized, but can you control your character? Does the character's movement feel right? Even if it's something as simple as a platformer, there are so many different ways. Game Maker's Toolkit recently did his magnet thing. That was, he actually goes through the process of explaining why he decided on the control system he did, because there are so many different ways you can tell a character to jump.
This is something I used to teach my theatre tech students and my theatre design students. the wrong decision is the one you didn't make. Now, that doesn't mean
Hmm.
that every decision you make is a good one, but it means if you don't think about something and make an active decision, if you just
Uh-huh.
let it happen, you've made the wrong decision.
Yeah. I mean, we have this.
Almost guaranteed.
We are very. Whenever we're designing a game, Jan and I, we sit down and there's probably a week or two of making a base game design document and always accepting that it won't be the same by the time you end. Pages will be torn out, things will be crossed out,
Feature creep will be hit on the
will be
head.
very present. Yeah. But having somewhere to start from is important, and having a direction is important, and making sure that you are comfortable with the fact that something that was a brilliant idea doesn't tie you down and you end up just axing it. It may be a brilliant idea, but not for the game you're making right at
Or
the
not for the
moment.
course you're making. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to be very careful about the fact that we keep putting it, because I like to make courses with games that you actually want to play. I think it's a much better learning experience,
Yeah.
right? Yes, of course, we could just do Infinite Runner with a block, and you will learn stuff from that. But if you don't want to play it, you're not going to have the same investment. You're not going to try and go the extra mile and customize it, which is where you're really going to shine as a student, right?
Yeah.
Because by making it your own, by investing in it, you
Yeah.
start really understanding the decisions you're making. But the downside with that is it's really easy to think of it as a game and start adding more and more features which aren't
Yeah.
actually important for the learning journey. You don't need 72 types of NPC. You need one or two.
Yes, repetitiveness is something we really struggle with when producing any course,
Mhm.
because ultimately, um, game design and many things outside game design are repetitive. You will do the same thing 30, 40, 50 times. There is no that showing you guys around a problem the first time and then providing solutions to various things that can go wrong. Great. Now let's practice that again. Awesome, I've got it. If you start doing it a third and fourth time,
And even then, like the most important thing we're supposed to be teaching is why you're making a decision, why something
yeah,
works. Like, why is this the right decision for here or the wrong decision for here? If
yeah,
you understand the why, the what becomes a lot simpler.
yeah,
But once you do understand the why, we should stop going on about it.
yeah. I had this sticks in my head to this day. So I was doing a duplication move. So I was pressing Shift and D, and then moving. It was like a roof tile or something along those lines. It was repetitive over there. So I demonstrated. I'm going to duplicate, move it across, duplicate, move it across. I'm going to grab three of them now and duplicate those three and move them across. So, oh yeah, you can select multiple things, duplicate, and then we're going to do another layer that's offset. So let's duplicate that and move it across, and move it up as well. Okay, brilliant. Now I'm going to speed run the rest of this
Yep.
because I'm going to be doing this
Clockwise.
now for the next, 2 minutes. It's not a big task, but it is very repetitive and so forth. And then of course, some people like that, the fact that they've not had to skip the video or fast forward. And then of course you get people, oh, I wanted to see the full process. I was literally following along with you. And I always try to encourage any student to not just follow along, but
Mm.
actually take the challenge on themselves and actually do the thing without having to follow along verbatim. Because unfortunately, what happens if you follow along a tutorial or any learning journey verbatim and you just copy what's there, you get very good at following along with tutorials and not very good at doing your own thing. I know plenty of people that are fantastic and they show some amazing models, but none of it's their original work. And that's a shame.
Well, again, it's the sort of understanding the why.
Yes. I think there's a big thing about the why you have to do things, well, not have to, but why we are doing things this way and not that way. And
And
that's
that
always a challenge.
links into BB Game Dev's thing about game design is hard. It is. And there are things you can do to practice and get better. And one of them is play a lot of board games and design your prototypes as pen and paper prototypes.
Yeah.
But again, that comes down to why am I making this decision? Like, why have I put this character here? Why is it this movement system? And for me, it boils down to what's the player experience, which is something I hammer on about all the time. But there are other ways of picturing game design. There are they're perfectly fine ways of picturing game design.
Yeah.
But for me, I find that picturing how do I want the player to feel and then going from there. A great example is a couple of weeks back, Mikey and I played Left 4 Dead 2. I'd got it years
Fantastic.
ago
Yeah.
for free on the one day it was free for Steam's anniversary.
Me too. Yeah.
Played it single player once, put it away. None of my friends are playing it. Mikey and I thought, let's play it, and we were terrible. I mean, really terrible. We were doing a standard run and gun, and we were just bad. Like we didn't make it through the first campaign.
Communication is really important in that game. Yeah.
And we rocked it. Except for one point where we forgot to do this because we realized it's a different kind of game with a different kind of experience. This isn't a Call of Duty game. It's not a run and gun. It's hold this territory, move on to the next territory, hold this territory, move as a group, first line crouch, keep in one block.
And that worked incredibly well.